Right.
And so I have always said,
you're right. I don't want to blame a black person for this.
Had the Black Caucus actually galvanized and mobilized around Obama, especially during the midterm elections, and not try to lay this pathway for just a Hillary to come in and win, we would have never had a Trump.
What's up? Welcome back to This Week in White Supremacy. Seemed like it was longer today.
Oh my goodness.
We're not starting. We're in the first 10 minutes, 10 seconds.
Literally.
We are not starting this today.
It seems like it was longer today. And this dude loses his mind. What's wrong with this dude?
That is your friend.
I'm starting to think that he's the suspect.
Yes, come on, man. Everything. I'm just serious. I'm co-founder, CEO of One Hood Media, and to my immediate right,
it's a miracle.
All right.
That seems slower than usual.
Yeah,
but it's your girl Miracle, aka Big Blessing, with the Big Blessing. Very happy to be here today.
And it's great to have you. You are in your Black Panther black leather coat. We ready to get super black. Gotta watch out, Farouk. This one. And my brother.
It's your boy, Trevor will never like supremacy, and a lesson in building. You know what I'm saying?
Great to have you in the building, brother.
Yes.
Great to build. And sir.
Nothing? He's silent and reflective.
Nothing? Man,
the sus and inappropriately divine.
Yes.
I'm still laughing at let's get it.
Yes, we're going to get into Trump later on. Yes. And Farouk found that.
And you see
funny.
where his mind goes.
See where his mind goes, right?
Okay, so no intro for you.
No intro. This is
but we're here nonetheless.
We're here. And
you know what, today...
You know, if I had my color chart, this would be a perfect time.
This would be a perfect opportunity. But you should say your name, right? What's your...
Yeah, my name is Saeed, man.
Okay. It's good to see you, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Today's subject, slavery.
Yes. Let's get right into slavery. Is that...
No, that's fine.
That's fine.
That's fine. But hold up.
Today's subject, slavery.
Yes. So
you didn't know.
Yeah, and not only
we went back in a time machine in the last week, and we are now in the 1700s.
Well, you know what, Farouk, that it's in times like this, in difficult times, man, you got to think about,
the benefits.
You should have gratitude.
Gratitude.
You should be thankful.
We should step into this space with abundant blessings.
All the things that we have. Thankful for the many blessings that we have,
such as,
and to be thankful to the slave master. Like, thank you for slavery, because if it wasn't for slavery, could we be podcasters if we had not learned these skills?
I thank God for the white man.
If the slave master did not teach us how to articulate and communicate during slavery. Yes. What'd you say?
They did not teach us.
The Moors taught them. Let's get accurate. Telling
are we? Come on, Miracle. It's 2023.
The Moors should have let people not bathe, and we wouldn't be here.
We're talking about Florida education. We're not talking about accurate depictions of history. We're talking about Ron DeSantis and Florida education. So for those that don't know, Florida put out a curriculum, and this was after, remember, it was Florida that challenged AP African American history, that basically watered it down. They didn't want any teaching. They definitely didn't want the 1619 Project. They didn't want Ibram Kendi's books. They didn't want any type of real conscious black academic, right? Kimberly Crenshaw, none of those individuals. So they watered down that AP African American history, and now they've gone a step further to say that they're going to teach middle school students that enslaved people developed skills during slavery that could be applied to their personal benefit. That slavery benefited. In fact, you could say, you have that drop, Farouk?
I thank God for slavery.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
I thank God for slavery.
Let me play. We got to play the whole clip.
Let's play the whole clip.
Yeah, because out of context, it sounds wild.
But we got to introduce the clip.
Yes, let's introduce it. This is Kim Daniels. Mm-hmm. So Kim Daniels is a Democrat state rep in Florida. Apparently, Kim Daniels was a part of this education meeting that determined that the new path forward for black middle school students and all middle school students in Florida would be that indeed slaves had a personal benefit from slavery. And so Kim Daniels, before becoming a politician, was a preacher. And one day Kim Daniels took to the rostrum.
Man.
And she had a controversial subject that she wanted to talk about.
So is this old or is this new?
This is old.
This is old. Jesus.
Yeah. This is like, I want to say this maybe in the 2000s. I don't know when it is, but
it looks like it's the 2000s, but I just wasn't sure.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Here we go. So this is Kim Daniels on her bullshit.
Thank God for slavery.
No, you talking about the whole clip. She said, Can I get amen?
God for slavery.
No, that's how she starts it.
Oh.
I thank God for the crack house. If it wasn't for the crack house, come on somebody, God wouldn't have never been able to use me how he can use me now. And if it wasn't for slavery, I might be somewhere in Africa worshiping a tree. I thank God for slavery.
That's crazy.
That's why you need education. This is why you need an actual education.
Hey, Kim, did you stop by the crack house before you taught this sermon?
She was smoking the rocks they stoned Jesus with.
Oh, shit.
Too far?
Yes, that was
too far. I think that I'm going to try to bring us back.
Please bring us
there
back.
There is this need for black people to always silver line some traumatic event.
Yes.
And I call it this idea that, like, as black people, we feel we can only learn through like pain and suffering.
Yes, correct.
So I'm gonna beat you down to build you up.
Miracle, I wonder if there's some historical incident that causes us to think like that.
I wonder, what could it be?
What could it have been, Miracle? Did we have some trauma 400 years ago?
But who knows? And so we have people like Kim, which is very heartbreaking, that doesn't have a true sense of self and doesn't have an informed educational background about her own lineage, to go in public and basically say slavery was a good thing because without slavery,
I wouldn't have white Jesus.
Pretty much. And it's just like, without slavery, maybe we wouldn't have imperialism and colonialism, and we would probably be in somewhere in Africa living our best lives with our family and community and not having to worry about teaching people that slavery is beneficial.
Where is that coming from?
Oh, shit, my bad.
See? Not enough slavery, brother.
Niggas love slavery.
No, absolutely not.
No, but I think you're 100% right, Miracle. And it's interesting how it does intersect with religion in the sense of this idea that, after suffering comes, some form of blessing.
Salvation,
Yeah, salvation, right. First, you have to go through suffering and you have to go through all of this sacrifice. And so it does, and really, in many ways, it historically, when you look at even how Christianity was introduced to slaves back then, it was introduced in a way to make the slaves more easy to be slaves. Right, more compliant, right? Then Nat Turner got it and he read the whole Bible and he had a different opinion and idea of what that Bible was telling him about liberation. So I do think it's interesting. Now, to Kim Daniels' credit, so Kim Daniels did a recent interview.
Did she really?
Yes, she did. And Kim Daniels said that she, quote, never participated in any conversation about the state's Black history standards, which include the assertion that slavery had benefits for the enslaved. She said, quote, I was never consulted about these standards. I disagree with and would have immediately challenged and resisted any notion that slavery was a benefit to African Americans.
It doesn't sound like it.
We had you on 4K.
Wait, let me see. What did she say? Wait, Kim, but didn't you?
I thank God for slavery.
Today's subject, slavery.
I thank God for slavery.
So it is wild that she said she was.
To this day. To this day.
She says, hold on. She says, quote, I am a black woman who was born in the early 1960s. I understand the atrocities of racial oppression and Jim Crow. I lived it.
I thank God for slavery.
Kim about to come up here and fight both of y'all.
She said the thank God for slavery political ploy was taken out of context.
I don't think it was, Kim. I really don't think it was. Do you know what it means to have things taken out of context? For example, you set context. You said, I thank God for slavery because if it were not for slavery, I'd be in Africa worshiping a tree.
Yes. She said, quote, she says.
Oh, we know what she said.
I thank God for slavery.
That's you, Kim. That is you, Miss Kim.
Okay.
What Kim said, quote, the message was not about slavery.
It was about the fact that God can use you.
It was not about slavery. Although she said, I thank God. But about overcoming obstacles in life as a believer of Jesus Christ, taking it out of that setting.
What color is Jesus, Kim?
You know, I got into an argument that said it was very interesting that in slavery you couldn't learn how to read, but you could learn how to pray. And I know,
miracle, where them shots at?
And I know people are going to be like, but she's just like anti-Christian. But I think this is the problem when we use religion to quote unquote save people, particularly people who are non-white, and we do that by telling them like who they are as a person is a sin.
Yes,
right, and that's the thing. Like with Kim's statement, like I don't care how old it is.
Yes,
there's a whole discourse you can have just about saying that I would have been in Africa worshiping a tree. That you're leaning into this narrative that we were all just savages on this continent.
True.
Like in Africa, we had no sense of self. We had no sense of God or a higher power or civilization or maths or nothing came out of Africa except for savagery.
Yes.
So that's what you're promoting by saying that.
Correct.
Like,
and right.
You're really just leaning into this white supremacist doctrine that, okay, we needed to be tamed. They needed to civilize the savage. They needed to introduce this white Jesus figure to us to humanize us.
And that we needed white slave masters to teach us any beneficial skills that we would then be able to, now we could be blacksmiths. And we, like, what they don't teach you is that, you know, that many of the enslaved people that came over here, one, you know, in many cases already had a religion that they practiced, right?
Absolutely.
You know, most famously, Alex Haley researched and found that his ancestors were Muslims, right? Mm-hmm. That was if you ever watched Roots or whatever. And so the idea that they came over and did not have skills, many of the enslaved our African ancestors that were enslaved had skills already.
And you could argue that predominantly all, because those would have been the most valuable people to take, is the people that knew exactly what to do.
That had skills, they had the most value.
High intellects, everything.
Right.
Like these would have been the people that were, if you're looking to capture people, you want people who can self-sustain.
Absolutely. But again, like this idea, you know, that we're talking about in terms of religion and what DeSantis is giving to now middle school students is that same narrative, right? The narrative that we were 3/4 of a human being, that we were in Africa, like she said, worshiping a tree, right? The idea that we were just some savages playing in the dirt. We had no civilization. This goes against, again, any type of history, right? That showed that we historically had all of these advanced civilizations. You know, Miracle talked about the Moors actually bringing Europe out of the Dark Ages, right? These were black Muslims, right?
I was going to say that's one of the worst historical
and so
eras ever.
Before I come to you, Trouble, and so but again, you're teaching young black and white people, and you want to continue a white supremacist narrative that, in fact, we needed, like the brutality of slavery, and to get into I mean, it's so brutal that a lot of it can't be. I think it should be taught in schools, but the brutality is on such a high level. Most of it, we don't even know how brutal it is unless you listen to a lot of these slave narratives. You know, we just had the white producer of that Will Smith movie just carrying around in his pocket the man whose back was filled with whip marks. Just the mentality, right? And so that's that idea of like, we were savages and that we benefited from slavery. And so that's what you have to teach to continue that white supremacist mindset. Trouble?
And another thing that I hate about this narrative is that it assumes that we wouldn't have learned said skills without slavery. Like that was the only route we had to learning these skills.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
There's a piece about this that they had on Fox News.
Yes.
Where they are defending.
Oh, of course. Wait a second. Fox News defending a slave master?
I don't know what bizarro universe we live in for that to be a headline, but here we are. And here is it. And I think we should have a conversation about this afterwards.
It says this right here. This is well documented among historians. This is historical fact that slaves did develop skills while they were enslaved and then used those skills as blacksmiths, as in agriculture, tailoring. In
agriculture?
In the shipping
for who,
business,
though? Who did we use those skills for?
Themselves and their families once they were freed. That's not-
I can't listen to that anymore.
What's fascinating about it is, Farouk, and I'm going to come to you, right? This is a week after we talked about the Tulsa race massacre, right? Where hundreds of black people were massacred because they were successful in business, successful in education, right? One brother down there like had his own plane that he was flying. So like the idea that like, oh, you learned agriculture, right? Yeah, at the expense of our own lives being taken.
And that's the point, right? That's the point that they're missing from this. Like, we only benefited in the sense that we weren't murdered.
Yes.
Murdered for this. We had no other option.
Yes.
But to learn these things or comply.
Right.
Are you familiar? Like, this is such an infuriating topic to hear people talk about this in 2023. I remember we went to the African American History Museum, the Smithsonian.
Yes.
And I remember touring the first floor.
Yeah. It's tough.
And my stomach got upset. Yeah. And I had to leave because I felt like I was going to throw up on the floor. And to sit here and have somebody on live national television defend slavery and the fact that us as people benefited, casting aside the ramifications that black pregnant women who were enslaved had their stomachs ripped open and babies fed to alligators.
Right.
What was done to our hands and our feet and our bodies for refusing to comply. Yeah. How people jumped off of ships choosing drowning, one of the most excruciating methods of death that is possibly known to man, over bondage.
Yeah.
And you're saying that this is beneficial to whom?
And not only that, Farouk, but when we did post-slavery try to establish our own towns,
they were burned.
Right.
We were incinerated.
Right. When we had success on our own, when we had economic success, when we had agricultural success, I mean, there's a whole narrative around the fact that black people were, at one point had a lot of the skills. And so you had to develop unions because there were massacres in Chicago and St. Louis of white people because they didn't have the skills to go to work and the workers were black. These are historical facts, but obviously this is not what Ron DeSantis and Florida education want to teach. They don't want to teach the whole story. They want to teach that half of the story. And it's really about, nigga, you should be thankful to be here in America. And this is the attitude of a lot of white supremacists, particularly these white Republicans, is you should be thankful to be here in America. You should be thankful for any scraps you get, nigga. Because you could be in Africa right now. You should be thankful you ain't praying to a tree. This is that mentality.
How dare you? How dare you say that black people benefited from 400 years of capture, of enslavement, of rape, of disease, of torture, of pain, of not knowing our history, of being relegated to called 3/5 of a man, have to fight for civil rights, have to witness Emmett Till, and then fast forward to Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor. How dare you say we should be thankful that we've benefited from this, and yet we've still reaped nothing. We have nothing to show for this.
Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you also, I mean, go look at the movie 12 Years a Slave. Where here was a guy, a black man that was free. Because sometimes we'll take like 2 or 3 examples. Hey, a black dude, paid for his own freedom. And we'll take that story over the millions of black people that were slaughtered during these 400 years, right? The millions of black people that we lost in the Middle Passage. But this was a free black man he was enslaved again, right? Just by being black, he was put to enslave. Not to mention what we're seeing mass incarceration happening right now. One of the places that it happens the most is in Florida, right? And so it's like, we'll imprison you and you can learn some skills in prison, right? And so when you take it out of context and you're like, oh, some black people learn these skills? But millions of black people were slaughtered, murdered, raped, tortured, degraded, debased, and you want to erase all of that and point to 1 or 2 black people that through sheer will or whatever resilience were able to survive. It's absolutely ridiculous. Miracle?
I think what's also missing in the context of skill development is one, black people already had skills. Black people already had knowledge in the language.
Absolutely.
Prior to chattel slavery, prior to the transatlantic slave trade. In addition, black people were creating during slavery because of the vile and utter brutal cruelty that was being besieged upon them. For instance, figuring out how to better gather crops so they wouldn't be murdered, killed, beaten, or raped, figuring out how to cook food because the food that was given to people who were enslaved was dirty, had mold, was literal scraps from the table because people were starving, because there was no incentive to take care of slaves when you could just buy more or breed more slaves.
Absolutely.
And people always want to talk and gloss over the sheer brutality that was slavery. I believe y'all should read the diaries of the slave masters. I believe y'all should go back and look at the sketch of the tools, the torture tools that they created to subjugate and break and kill and murder slaves, to have a better informed conversation. Because if we're going to talk about slavery, we have primary source documents about what happened during the time of slavery because the slave masters wrote it down themselves. We have pictures, we have portraits of things that happened.
Immaculate records about this, about purchasing people.
But Miracle, if we teach that in the schools, that's going to make white students feel bad, Miracle.
It's going to
make them feel bad about being white.
Sometimes that's what you need, because if you're not learning the accurate portrayal of this history, then you are...
And then on top of that, they want us to...
This is difficult. This is very difficult.
They want us to feel bad about our anger towards slavery because they keep trying to remind us that we benefited somehow.
Yeah.
But white kids can't sit with the guilt of their ancestors.
Well, Bree Newsom had a tweet. She said, you know what's funny about the teaching history makes white kids feel bad argument? It assumes white children should only identify with the slave holders of history and not the white abolitionists. Reveals a lot about those arguing it. You know what I'm saying? This is a comment from the Educational Commissioner of Florida, Manny Diaz. He said that the changes to the Black History curriculum will make it more robust. I think this is something that's going to set the norm for standards in other states. He said Florida would continue to teach the good, bad, and ugly of American history in an age-appropriate manner. And so, again, this is an attempt to also, clear the slave masters to say, oh, well, some good came from this. It wasn't all bad. They weren't all wrong. They weren't all bad. You know what I'm saying? You had some good slave masters. You know what I'm saying? Thomas Jefferson was a good slave master. So you get into this idea of that thinking, and it's fascinating to see because it probably will. This is the wild part about what's happening in America right now. When you see these, Planned Parenthood, the Moms of Liberty going all around these schools to try to prevent the actual history being taught. Because when you should feel bad, you should feel guilty. You should feel like, well, you should look at where your privilege why am I allowed to be here today? It's off the backs of one of the most brutal, incidents or times in the history of this world, right? There was slavery before the American experience of slavery, but nothing reached the brutality of chattel slavery in America. That's another piece that you talk about on this show a lot, Miracle, that people try to conflate those two. And so obviously we reject, this teaching, and it's really almost like forcing us to go back to like homeschooling and school circles where like after school you got to get in another school circle to learn like truly what our real history is. And it's almost like what was the movie where like the books where you had to like, what was it, Fahrenheit
9/11?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was called 9/11. It was Fahrenheit
415.
Fahrenheit 451 or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, where it's like the book now, it's like knowledge as they're banning these books, as they're banning this information. Now it's like we're almost, trading this information like you would, like it becomes illegal, like a drug in a sense. It's
451.
wild. Yeah, Fahrenheit 451. It is wild to be an American.
But I also think that it's very important because it points out that people are trying to make these schools inhospitable for Black people.
1,000%.
Because there is this long goal attack on public education.
Yes.
And we've seen this in the past like 5 years as we've talked about how Black people have become more educated. There is a more, planned, skilled, organized attack on public education for this very reason.
Absolutely.
And I think that when we're talking about the right to education, the right to educate our kids and what we're educating our kids on, we have to understand that there are powers that be and billionaires that, exist that do not want an educated, informed society because then, that breaks up the money that they're able to exploit of Black parents, for some of these charter schools and these private schools, because if your kid is educated and safe at a public school, you're not going to be able to go to their pet projects. And I think we have to talk about that. And I also think we have to talk about that there are Black people who are not aware of the legacy of and the history of Blackness outside of slavery.
True. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And when we talk about Kim, talk about she's praying to a tree. I think I shared this before, but I was in my African American Studies class. One of the kids' parents came and was arguing with the teacher because she was like, Black people didn't know how to read until they came to America. And she was arguing when we were talking about like the history of like Black people in the world and saying like, it wasn't true that Black people knew how to read. It wasn't true that Black people were writing. It wasn't true that Black people had their own paper.
And this is a white person?
It was it was a Black parent. Yeah. And they were just so offended at the book that we were reading about it was like an African American history, but the first part of the book was talking about the history of Africa. Right. And was talking about maybe King Leopold and different people and how they had like these, embassies with various African countries and how kings were coming to Africa, how Aristotle was talking about he learned from the Africans. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she was like, that is not true because the Africans didn't know how to read. Right. And so when we're having these conversations, it's also important that we're trying to find ways to reach adults who don't know their own history.
Absolutely.
Outside of like, y'all's favorite local educators, your Prince of Pan-African and your hidden colored person. And so I do think we have to also have honest conversations of how we're engaging parents and grandparents who couldn't learn history because they were just trying to survive
1,000%.
These Jim Crow and these very violent systems.
Yeah, it's just wild. It's like, millions of your ancestors died, but you learned blacksmith. You
learned English.
You learned to be a blacksmith.
You got the Lord's Prayer out of this.
Ignore the millions of people that died or were enslaved. That is kind of fascinating. Well, in other white supremacist news, a new hit song has emerged on the country.
We needed to lighten this up because I was getting tight, bro.
And Western music. Tight. Okay, well, I guess I don't know if this lightens it up, but a country music
technically
singer,
it does.
He was like,
isn't it lightened up as soon as we sit down?
Oh.
Well played.
I said 1900 had the birth of a nation, and in 2023,
Yes. So Jason Aldean is
it Aldean or is
it doesn't matter. We don't.
I'm gonna call him Aldean. Yeah, I'm gonna call him. I mean, we can call him Jason.
I think it looked like Alderaan from Star Wars, but I don't know.
Jason Aldean produced a song and video called "Try That"
in a sundown town,
in a small town, right? Try that, nigger. Parentheses. No, try that in a small town. And basically, the crux of the video is, y'all doing all these Black Lives Matter protesting, y'all disrespecting cops, y'all doing this. Try this in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Around here, we take care of our own. All right. These are some of the lyrics, right? Got the gun that my granddaddy gave me. They said one day they're going to round up. Well, that shit might fly in the city. Good luck. So here's Jason saying like, hey, black people, y'all want some liberation and rights?
You want your liberation lattes?
You want your rights? You want to be equal and liberated? Not in my town, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got guns and we will use them. And then they said the video is him in his small town. Of course, he has a giant American flag behind him. And
at a courthouse where a lynching took place.
At a court. Well, I mean, come on, Farouk. You got to drive the point home, right? You know what I'm saying? You got to let these niggas know what happens.
I guess you are 1,000% right to think about that.
If you try that in a small town, man, like you got to go where the lynching took place.
It's funny because he said that there was no real footage of protests used in the video, but they debunked that.
Yes.
They actually found out that these are real protests and things that are happening, where issues of police brutality happening, being documented.
Yes.
Like, where else would you get the footage, bro? You just have paid actors doing this?
Try that in a small town full of good old boys raised up right.
And as
if you're looking for a fight.
As he's been trying to defend this, right? This ain't the same person who in 2015 dressed up in blackface as Lil Wayne.
Yes, it is.
This ain't the same person.
Yes.
Who tried to defend blackface.
Yes.
And said, "Oh, I didn't know about it, and if I hurt anybody, I didn't mean to."
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, so this, like you had said, the courthouse, which is the backdrop of a performance, it says a mob hanged an 18-year-old
from
the balcony
right?
in 1927.
27. Okay, my bad.
The teen had been accused of attacking a white girl who never identified him as her assailant, and whose mother begged the mom to let him stand trial. Columbia is also the site of an infamous 1946 race riot.
Okay, that's what I was talking about.
That nearly resulted in the lynching of future Supreme Court Justice
Thurgood
Marshall. So he was like, I'm gonna let him know.
Yeah.
And it's not even, you're not even from there. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? That's it. Yeah. And so obviously when you dressed up in blackface, and again, he didn't apologize for dressing up. He did the "if I offended you" apology. When he dressed up as blackface, he was unapologetic. And so this video has been pulled from the country music channel. I guess it's been pulled from MTV.
But it's the number one song in the country right now on iTunes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
it jumped over like every single song. It's like the most popular song on streaming services.
Yes.
Wow.
Any comment, Miracle, on try that in a small town? Are you from consider a small town? Would you say that?
No.
Okay.
There are a bunch of small towns. I would say my parents are from small towns.
Got you.
My grandparents are from small towns.
Yes.
Mine
too. Yeah.
Uncle Rob was lynched and disappeared by the Klan. He was a black indigenous man. My father's, one of their houses was burned by the Klan. So I do very much understand what happens in a small town. And it was very interesting to me is coming from a time when there was situations with Ahmaud Arbery. Don't believe Jason was very on the front lines condemning that, right? He in this video actually includes, I think in the TikTok of the actual video, a newspaper graphic that was actually about how this white man who was speaking out against racism was drove out of a small town.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And so was that the Time Magazine article?
It was it's in a bunch of stuff. People have been gone through and they've broken down frame by frame. They've even gone through and looked at the words that he's used. and how it's actually very coded language because it's going to black behaviors and it's not a white behavior. It's how we code crimes in our laws, and that's the stuff that he was incensed and enraged by. But a lot of people rightly point out that in small towns, they are being destroyed by guns and drugs.
Yes.
They are being destroyed by lack of internet access. There is so much pain, death, and destruction in small towns because of the lack of investment, because they are literally, we talked with, I think his name was Jonathan, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, about how these policies that people are advocating for in small towns because they want to hurt and harm black people are literally killing them. And so when people like Jason Aldean, who isn't even from a small town, is from like a middle class upbringing and is pretending to be a struggling small town kid, when he's saying these things, he is literally gaslighting people into white supremacy, because he literally could be talking about the struggles and the hardships that people face in small towns. There are people who don't have running water in small towns, people who don't have electricity, people who don't have access to standard Wi-Fi in small towns, who are even more at a learning loss and disadvantage than some urban black people. And instead of pointing out these issues and why we need to be fighting and organizing to come together, you're talking about taking guns when literally y'all are killing each other at a higher percentage, at a higher rate in small towns. But it's not reported as gun violence.
Again, it's that white supremacist narrative that everything plaguing the United States of America is like the urban people. And by urban people, you mean black people,
it's too woke.
Brown people, right? LGBTQIA people. Like, these are the individuals. It's their culture, right? It's their lack of civilization. It's their savagery. It's their animalistic tendencies is the reason why, like, white America is in the state that it's in today. This is why Trump, goes right in line with Trump saying, make America great again, right? Bring back the time where white people ran. So this is what he's calling for, right? A callback to that time where you could put a black person in a place. You can make a nigga go across the street, right? If you didn't like this person, you could go hang him up. There wasn't no trials. You could just go hang him up and kill this man, right? And so this idea that, like, so he's playing upon, again, these white supremacist narrative that the reason, like you said, like, it's not like, well, what about like the economies of these small towns? What about the fact that these huge corporations and multi-billionaires are also preying on small town individuals, right? Preying on them. You know, they're losing healthcare. They're losing affordable jobs and benefits. But it's like, oh, you know who's to blame? Small town white person? These niggas is to blame. Oh, you know who's to blame? These drag queens. It's their fault, right? It's their fault that you're suffering. You don't have health care. You're poor.
Why can't
you
they
don't
just
have
pull
access
themselves
to
up by the
clean water.
bootstraps?
Right, exactly, right. Well, the reason that they can't is because affirmative action, Farouk. They can't get the job because they're going to give the job to the black. Diversity, education, and inclusion.
But now all these laws are being repealed. Like in Florida, you can't hire undocumented people.
I think
affirmative action's been rolled back.
Farouk, you're talking about facts. Okay?
Oh, damn.
We don't have facts. And of course, Trump loves this song, and DeSantis loves this song, and artists as well. They love each other. Trouble, you're an artist. Okay, you're an Emmy Award-winning artist.
Yes.
What is your take on try that in a small town?
My response, my immediate response, is try that in the hood.
Go bring your little guitar to Homewood.
Like, we got guns that the government gave us. Try that shit over here. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes. I like that. I like that.
Out of here. And also, like,
To this day.
you know what I'm saying? And it's interesting to see how he's riling up the anger of these small town folks. Like, we don't all share the same oppressor. You know what I'm saying?
True.
It's like, you want to fight us, but we're not the ones taking money out of your family's pocket.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We're not the ones devastating your entire community.
Right. We didn't destroy the unions. Like, we didn't prevent you from having a livable wage job. But they would say, Trouble, oh, it's the Mexican immigrants and they're willing to work for less and cheaper. So it's their fault, not the individuals that are actually employing them, right? They're not looking at the individuals employing them and making billions of dollars. They're looking at the other side of things.
Yeah, that's just wild to me. It's like Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, and it is crazy. I don't want to I was going to say, because Tom almost said, speaking of lynching, that's kind of crazy.
That's
but
crazy, but
because
I mean,
we're having a conversation about lynching. Nigga made a pro lynching song in 2023.
Yeah. Like
that's where we are right now.
I hate Earth,
right? Lynching songs, right? And then because it's successful with another with another country music star, make a even more.
Someone's gonna up the ante. Yeah. They have to.
I mean,
bro, they have to.
Probably will. So, Joe Biden, it came out, the president will establish a national a national monument honoring Emmett Till, the black teen lynched in Mississippi. White House officials say President Joe Biden will establish a national monument honoring Emmett Till and his mother, Mamie Till Mosley. I'll come to you, Miracle.
I feel like, what is the Malcolm X quote? I gotta go find it. Just about people won't give you actual policies; they'll give you monuments.
Yeah.
I forgot what it is. But it's yes, this is we deserve monuments to mark and educate people about our history. But at the same time, maybe just do something about the act of white supremacy. It's maybe act like you're the president.
Yes.
That's it. No one asked for this monument.
Yes, no, we didn't.
What we asked for was
justice.
Justice. Yes. His accuser to be dragged out that nursing home, right? Take the dentures out, the jello put in, all that, and bring her ass to justice in cuffs.
Yes.
Crowd serve her to a courthouse and make her stand accountable. Do all this technology we got. Yeah. Reverse engineer her aging, right? Use some of that stem cell research on her. Bring her back to 16 years old or however she was when she made them accusations and put her ass back in jail, right? Let her live out the days, but no, instead you want to build up a bloody monument.
And right, I think that's what people are saying. They actually, the Justice Department did not want to pursue charges against the woman who claimed Emmett Till whistled at her and witnessed his murder, although she's still alive. I think it's Carolyn Bryant is her name. And although this is what Emmett Till's family wants. His family wants justice for the woman that participated in his murder. There was a warrant for her arrest that they found that they haven't been issued. So the Department of Justice could do that, right? Or they could build a statue and I think I agree with Miracle.
The statue probably going to cost more than the court would cost.
Well, I mean, again, it's it's that thing of we're not going to give you justice.
Symbolism.
You know what I'm saying? Right. Yes.
This is no difference in 2020 when they put Black Lives Matter on Pennsylvania Avenue.
And then watch that right on off.
Watch it right off.
And Black Lives still don't matter.
This is the same thing, bro. You know what I mean?
I'm starting
how come? Go ahead.
I have a little bit of a hot take.
Okay.
But I think that we're seeing that it goes nowhere asking the courthouse for justice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that is always the best option when we're looking at ways and people who are responsible for the brutalization of black bodies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to elaborate on that, but I'm just saying I don't think the courthouse is the place we should be looking for justice.
Oh, I'm not
mad at you.
Yeah. I think that when we're denied justice over and over and over again, right? And we're watching. I mean, you got a dude that's going to have probably over 100 felonies. Might be our next president because he's a white man, right? Just think about if you think of President Obama had a misdemeanor charge on his record,
man,
and how that would have totally eliminated him for being president, or any black people that they try to bring up your past record, right?
And I have a question about this, and I really want to kind of bring Miracle into this, going back to the piece about slavery and DeSantis. I know Kamala had spoke out against it, but how come we don't have more black politicians speaking out against this? Why? If
against what?
Against Florida.
I mean, I think they all have relatively. They all have relatively been strong in their opposition to it.
Now, is this anything? Now, can this be correlated to the fact that Obama didn't go hard enough when he was in office?
I definitely. Okay, so we don't. Again, I don't think we want to just blame the black.
No.
I think it's not that Obama didn't go hard enough. If you gotta remember, the Black Caucus did not want Obama to win.
That's
right.
That is
and
true.
They went hard against him because everybody thought Hillary was going to be the next president. So they galvanized around her.
Right.
And so I have always said,
you're right. I don't want to blame a black person for that.
Had the Black Caucus actually galvanized and mobilized around Obama, especially during the midterm elections, and not try to lay this pathway for just like Hillary to come in and win, we would have never had a Trump.
Right. We were looking for this. They were looking for a white savior.
Correct. Because that's what you were trained to do. And that's also where their bread was buttered at, right? If 100%. You know the Clintons were the ones fundraising for you, they were the reason you got the job, your loyalty was to them. Remember, Obama got in by accident. There was... Are
you saying the election was rigged?
No. He came to... there was a special election, and that's how he got involved. And then people began to like him. And then they thought he was not going to run. And he said, I'm going to run anyways. Yeah. He was never the establishment candidate. No. And then when he won, he had a national organizing campaign. There was Acorn. There was a lot of all this other stuff. When Acorn went away, the DNC did not even keep his national mobilizing campaign. Yeah. So people forget Obama had you had to have at least 3 people canvassing in conservative red areas. Most DNC has nobody in these conservative, even here in Pennsylvania. We did not have people going into these areas until a few months ago when it was we actually possibly could turn Pennsylvania purple. Yeah. Right? So even the plan that Obama set in place, they hated that black man so much that they didn't even keep his plan. Yeah. And it was bro, this is what you have to show up. Yeah. You have to knock doors. And you have to have a policy that gets people out to vote. And that didn't happen. And a lot of it was because RBG wanted her replacement to be picked by a white woman and not, Obama. Yeah. So she stayed on, and then we lost the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. It was all this stuff where it was this white woman is going to save us. This white woman's going to get all the first person to nominate somebody to the Supreme Court, the first person to sign the bill for, women's rights, the first person to sign a bill for abortion rights. And then what happened? We lose all that stuff because we wanted to make sure Hillary had all these white first.
Woman. Yeah,
yeah, and I think too.
Thank you for clarifying that because because I wasn't in the States at that time, so there's a lot of that I missed out on.
I always tell people go back and look at the Black Caucus, and they even took out an ad. I think it was either ad or an op-ed about Obama and how he was moving wrong, right? And it's just
but I do think that sometimes what happens is that when black politicians particularly get into a certain height, a lot of it is about maintaining the status quo.
We're post-racial,
not appearing too radical, not appearing to be So Obama has to come out and say I'm the president for everybody, which he is, right? But not specifically supporting your individuals. But I think the thing is
I'm not the king of all people.
Yeah,
I'm the king of Wakanda.
Right. So it's the whole piece of and I think what we're seeing right now is you're seeing a radical Republican. You're seeing a Republican Party that's fuck the rules, fuck the laws, right? We want power and we'll do anything that we can do or willing to do to get power. We're seeing this happen, and it's interesting because as more black people are becoming more political, we're seeing more pushback from white people. There was a story that came out about, speaking of, try that in a small town, where in this small town in Alabama, a black man tried to become the mayor. What's wild about the piece was, right, that the town in Alabama, this is called New Bern, Alabama, is 85% black.
That's a lot of black people.
Yes, but Patrick Braxton was the first black mayor that they ever had.
In the history of the town?
In the history of the town.
Madness.
An 85% black town that never had a black mayor. So when he became mayor.
Uh-oh, what happened? Don't tell me.
White
Let me
people-
guess.
Try that in a small town, my nigga. Like, and it's like, if they can't physically lynch you, right, they find out other ways to try to take power. So Braxton is actually suing the former white mayor and city council because he alleged that they waged a campaign of harassment, which included surveilling him, locking him out of town hall, and they basically said the white mayor and city council reappointed themselves in a hidden special election. Again, they don't care about, like, when we win.
Fair and square. When we win by the rules.
Fair, right. Like you said, fair. More people voted.
You move the goal line.
100%. Remember, when we lose, it's like, oh, you niggas should have voted. Should have voted more, register more.
But when we do, and then, like you said, when we win, they're checking the voting machines.
Yes.
They're looking at all the petitions, all the polls, making sure everybody lived in the district they do. I mean, this is a time where, like, yo, black people get tossed in jail for trying to go to better school districts.
Now listen to this. It says over the last 60 years, there hasn't even been an election in New Bern. Instead,
does not sound democratic at all.
Instead, residents told the outlet that a small number of white residents simply handed down the positions as they saw fit. You gonna be mayor now. So until Braxton came along, he won by simply being the only person to submit the proper paperwork and statement of economic interest. That's how he became mayor. The town only has 275 people. But when he won and appointed black and white members of the city council, there'd only been one black member of the city council. That's when the white people were like, nah, man, we do this our way, which is we hand down power in the way we want to. Fuck democracy. Fuck all this other stuff. You know what I'm saying?
This is not only nepotism. This is mayoral positions
Yes.
through legacy admission.
Yes. Yes.
This is hoarding of resources.
Yes.
This is the antithesis of democracy. I mean,
this is why we need the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
Come on, man.
In the lawsuit, Braxton says Stokes destroyed all the town records, so the black mayor couldn't access them. He changed the locks on town hall.
Like, who does that hurt?
They even try to run him off the road.
Yes. And mind you, but Miracle, when you say, again, we're talking about Alabama. When you say, oh, hey, well, you know, we just need, and not that you say this, the John Lewis voting rights in Alabama, the Supreme Court.
Correct.
The Supreme Court told Alabama, hey, look, your voting policies are specifically disenfranchising black residents. Therefore, you have to draw a second black congressional district. Think about the black people in Alabama. You only have one black congressional district in Alabama. That's fucking nuts.
And they push all the black people
to one district. Wait. Let me, before you say. So the Supreme Court said you have to draw a second black congressional district. And these white people these criminals in Alabama say no, they're refusing a Supreme Court order.
Correct. And Alabama is very interesting.
I thought they loved law and order.
Exactly.
No.
But let you
love lynching and killing.
Let you refuse law and order. Wait, but let you refuse the Supreme Court order around Roe v. Wade and they're gonna throw you in jail.
That's
right.
Come on.
When I was thinking about picking law schools in Alabama, someone said, interesting, none of the black law schools have accreditation. Because all the black lawyers in Alabama go to the black law schools, and that's how they get their clients.
Wow.
But they're not accredited. So that is how you can be a black lawyer and only be able to work in the state of Alabama. And so Alabama has had a 2-tiered system of justice for black people for a long time. Alabama we even think about it as one of the homes of the civil rights movement, and we have, the bus boycotts, but Alabama has really codified black people as second-class citizens, and we just accept it because it's Alabama. Yeah. It's Alabama and it's Mississippi, and we just let these things happen. But what we're finding out is in these small towns, there are a lot of black people in these small towns.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of black people in rural America, and they have been fighting back, and they are organizing and mobilizing, and they're pushing back. So I hope that this Supreme Court will actually have their backs. I hope that this Biden federal government will actually have their backs and take up these cases and go there and fight, because it's absolutely ludicrous this man won this free and fair election.
Yes.
And I always say, if this was a black or brown led country, and we would hear something like this, we would be mobilizing the plains, talking about we need to go defend democracy
100%.
and liberate people.
Absolutely.
And we would be bombing places. But because it's Mississippi and Alabama and it's happening to black people, we're like, oh, it's just another day.
Yes.
And so I'm happy this man is fighting back. I'm happy this town is fighting back. I think Alabama and Mississippi is really trying to make it. Alabama, Mississippi, and Tennessee. I just think the South as a whole is really in this renaissance. They're trying to say, we are here, we are fighting, don't forget us, don't abandon us, because we have literally abandoned the South since Reconstruction. And that is where the most black people are, where the most queer people are, where so many disabled people are. And it would behoove people in power to pay attention and to fight for these Southern people in these Southern states.
Absolutely. So shout out to one of the people they highlight in the article is Evan Milligan, Executive Director of Alabama Forward. So that's an organization we haven't done our call to actions in a minute. But if you were looking at maybe making a donation or supporting, they were the ones who actually brought the voting case to the Supreme Court and won that case. So support these organizations and organizers in Alabama that are handling their business and doing their thing. Now, Farouk, I see you went and got a book.
A special book.
For our white pages.
You know what? And I would love for you to do the honors of introducing this book, because I think this is a very special book for all of us, but specifically you.
Yeah, so this is called Artworks. Now, this isn't a author of color. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to say that off top, Ken Grossinger, but he's somebody that, this is a book called Artworks. It's called How Organizers and Artists Are Creating a Better World Together. I was interviewed by Ken for this book, along with a various number of artists of color that are using art to make our world a better place. They're using art in terms of activism, education, political education. And so the book just came out. So he has praise for artworks from Jane Fonda, from Harry Belafonte, you know what I'm saying, from Gloria Steinem, from Ai Weiwei, you know what I'm saying? These are the individuals that are praising him. He's somebody that's been in the art space for a number of years. So shout out to Ken, Artworks, and shout out to me for being interviewed for the book Artworks. Anything else? Any other things that have happened?
This was at some points a difficult episode.
Yeah. Well, also I would say, we want to shout out to Lupe. Lupe came through Pittsburgh, invited us to his show. Appreciate him, his support. We also, I would say, would be remiss in also saying we want to say rest in power to Gilly's son.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? Gilly and Wallow have a popular podcast called $1 Million Worth of Game. His son, I know he goes under the rap name of Cheese.
Yeah, YNG Cheese.
If you can get his real name for us, we want to also say rest in power to him and all those people that have lost their lives due to gun violence, which is one of the things that we're working on. We have our We Keep Us Safe cohort that's doing positive things.
Devin Spady,
rest in power to him as well. Anything else that we want to say before we leave? Anything?
I do want to shout out an event happening on Friday just to uplift the spirits a little bit.
Yes.
Future is Black is throwing an event called
Oh,
On
that's
the Floor
not the
Fridays.
event that we were thinking of, brother.
But go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. So we have multiple events on Friday.
So you could hit Fridays on Deck.
Well, no, let's talk about Future's Black first.
Yeah, and then after Fridays on Deck, you can go to Fridays on the Floor because it starts at 10 p.m.
Okay, yes.
At Mixtape.
10 p.m. mix, and then Tacumba is somebody that works. Are you involved in this as well?
Not directly.
Okay, but I think is QRX DJing?
Uh-huh.
Okay, QRX, Tacumba, it's always family, right?
Yes,
so
indeed.
Fridays on deck we'll be 7 to 9. We'll be at Liberty Green Park with food trucks. We got ATU this week. Hopefully we'll have Happy Day ice cream truck. And we have a whole bunch of providers that are coming to support this community in East Liberty and Liberty Green, to push back against the gentrification happening in East Liberty. So shout out to Fridays on deck and then Fridays on the floor. Yes. Fridays on deck, Fridays on the floor. Absolutely. Anything else happening? Well, I would say the last thing. You still got a little time. There's still some tickets left to our August 11th show. The Locks, right? One Hood, Union, The Locks, August 11th, Hip Hop History. Get your tickets now, because if you wait to the last minute, Pittsburgh might not get in to see The Locks. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, final words. A Black Panther Queen. Did
we find the Malcolm X quote?
I did not. I was reading hundreds of Malcolm X's quotes, but I couldn't find it.
It's fine. But wherever there's people, there's power. Shout out to Chairman Fred Hampton. And just remember, the power is yours. You can make opportunities for yourself. You can be with your community, and that does not require that you go through trauma or be enslaved or be harmed in any way. And I also wanted to shout out my home state of Georgia for, after incarcerating people for over 7 years, actually finding people innocent. So, a lot of stuff is happening, but just stay tuned, keep fighting, keep up the good work.
Yes. Trouble?
Never lose sight.
Farouk?
Peace.
All right, peace. See y'all next week.